Welcome back to another edition of the Wizard Shop, and today we're going to talk about pesky Porsche airbag lights right after this. So this is a 97 Porsche Boxster with the 2.5 liter in it. It's not the S model, it's just a Boxster. It's been in here before for the airbag light. We're going to go over today what is the common issue with the airbag light on these, what makes it come on, and what it usually is the problem, and also how you can solve it. So usually the problem with these is with the seat belt buckle or the wiring that's underneath the seat. We actually have the driver's seat out of this car. I'm going to show you some of the common issues that happen to cause this light and also what you can do to solve it. It can be very difficult to reset the light on these. You might need the Durmetric, or you might have an aftermarket scan tool that can do it. My Autel MS908 can do it, so we're able to reset it for them. But let's talk about what exactly goes wrong. Why does this happen? As you can see on this seat, the buckle is not just a standard old buckle like in a 65 Ford Galaxy. It's not just a dumb buckle. It's got wiring that goes to it. There's a micro switch inside of there. And the wiring goes through the seat and to a connector that's under here. The airbag system uses the information on whether or not you've got the seat belt buckled or not. And it can tell that through this wiring. There's resistance that's 400 ohms or 100 ohms, opened or closed. And it can tell based on that the seat belt is buckled or not. Now, sometimes it can be just the buckle itself. That's one of the issues that can cause this, and the solution is just to replace the buckle. You would have to take this apart like I've done, take the seat out and check the wiring at the connector and check the ohms measurements to be able to check the buckle. But once you've got the seat out, I want to show you guys the other issues that cause the light to come on. So one of the reasons why this vehicle is here again is for the airbag light coming on. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, it's been here before. The reason why it was here before was the passenger side was having a code for the buckle. I did the same procedure we're doing now on this side. I was able to clean the connectors and put it all back together. And so far, even to this day, it's happy with the passenger side. The light came on and the customer was like, oh no, that's the same problem again. It's actually not the same problem again. The code that comes up now is saying the driver's side seat belt buckle. It has no issues with what's going on the passenger side at all right now. So I've got the driver's side seat out, and I want to show you guys some of the common issues that cause the light that go on right below where you sit, where you're driving. One of the biggest issues is the connector right here that goes to the bottom of the seat. As you can see, it's got some large sockets or large pins here. Those are for the power seats. But that's not our issue. Our issue is these little tiny pins here. That's for the seatbelt buckle. Corrosion or poor contact happens there, and the resistance readings do not fall within specified range. Boom, your airbag light comes on. I've had really good luck with applying a chemical to these pins, and it solves it. I use a product called Stabilant 22A. It is extremely powerful. It has taken care of every electrical connection issue that I've ever had just by applying a drop or two. This is not a $5 bottle. This is about an $80 or $90 bottle. And you don't want to just pour it on your connector and just dump it on because you'll waste it, and it's very expensive. But there's a reason why they're charging almost $100 for this bottle, because it really works. You can see that on my affiliate page. We'll place it down there for you. But I used that chemical on this passenger seat a while back, and it hasn't reoccurred since. It's been very happy. Now we're having issues with the driver's side. So as you look down here, there's not only the connector that has the issue, it can also be this ground right here. I'll take it loose for you real quick. This is the ground that's used for the airbag on this side. All it takes is a little bit of corrosion down here, and it can cause some issues with resistance readings or make the airbag module not happy. Okay, what I do with this hasn't been the problem on this seat or the other seat, but I clean these anyway just for precaution, is I wire brush the stud here and make sure it's nice and clean. Also wire brush the connectors. As you can see, we're putting an aluminum or a steel eyelet on top of a brass one, or copper, whatever that is. That can create corrosion, dissimilar metals. Also the nut. And then, anytime I've had ground issues, I put anti-seize. Not only does that protect it from future corrosion, but being that it has aluminum metal all in it, it conducts really good. It conducts electricity really good. So put some on the stud. Put some on the connector. On both eyelets there. And on the nut and the threads of the nut. You don't need to put a giant blob on there. Tighten it down nice and snug. Obviously not tight enough to break it, but and that takes care of the ground issue. Very likely though, our issue is in this connector I just showed you. So you can also test the belt buckle, which also can be the issue. You can measure the 2 pins that go to the belt buckle to a micro switch. And whether the buckle is inserted or not, it should be 100 ohms or 400 ohms. If you measure it and you see 380 or 70 ohms, then you know you either got a wiring issue at the connector or the buckle itself has failed. The buckle measured good on the passenger side, and when I clean the contacts on the connector, as you've seen, the issue hasn't come back again, but it did on the driver's side. So I'm going to apply some of this stabilant to the connector, and I'll show you how to do that. We're not applying it to the large pins that go to the power seat, just to these little ones. I put a drop and a drop and let it soak in. Let it soak for a while. These come with a tiny little brush that you can push it in there, but I've never had to even use the brush. You let that soak for about 5 minutes, and then you can put some of this on the connector that's under the seat, just like we did here. Let it sit for 5 minutes and plug it back in and put the seat back together. Then you clear your codes, and there's a 90% chance that will take care of your airbag light. And here's the connector on the seat. You'll see a little blue and a black connector. It only actually uses the blue connector. As you can see, the blue right there. You could put a little drop of stabilant on there. And this is a slide lock style connector. So you'll push the connector in and lock it down. And that would take care of any connection issues there. If you get into the car and you find out either on the seat or in the floor that the wires are damaged or you see some cut wires, it may behoove you to just go ahead and put the TSB or the kit that you can buy that you basically bypass this whole plug right here with the airbag cable. And they hardwire together, and you don't even use this plug anymore. It solves connection issues. But for now, to save a little money, you can put stabilant on the connector, put it back together. Very likely it will take care of that problem for you. So it comes down to 3 things that you can do on your seatbelt buckle. You can clean the ground, apply some anti-seize to it. You can apply stabilant to the connector on the seat, the airbag portion of it. Or you can test and possibly replace the buckle itself. It may be that you get deep into it and just the airbag module, the main control module is bad. That would require much deeper investigation to find out. Then if that's the case, it's going to be much more expensive to fix. But these are things that usually take care of it here. So I hope that that helps you guys if you have a 986 or a 996. They're both the same thing basically from here forward. They have the same issues. And you might have the airbag light on, you check the codes, belt buckle. Now you know what you can do to address it and possibly solve it for not a lot of money. It's not hard to do these little procedures here, but it is time consuming as far as you have to remove your seat and get to everything. So I was just going to quickly fix this and get it back together because I know if it worked on the passenger side, it very likely is going to work on the driver's side. And I thought, hey, you guys might want to see a video about this. It may save you some time and money. Get your pesky airbag light turned off.
Hey, Car Wizard, is this something that can happen on other cars too?
Yeah, anytime on the airbag system, there's lots of resistances, things that there's sensors in the seats, there's sensors in the seat belt buckles. It tests resistances against known good values, and if there's an issue, it may just be the connector. Corrosion causes a lot of issue with airbags. And I'm not talking about like a huge crustation of rust. It's just a tiny little bit of corrosion between a metal pin, like an aluminum pin and a copper pin. They touch, and a tiny little bit of corrosion goes between the two, enough to change the resistance value from 100 ohms down to 80. That's all it takes, and the computer goes, something's wrong. Turn on the airbag light.
Car Wizard, does this also happen with cars that just sense whether someone's sitting there or not?
Yeah, that's how it senses. Is resistance is on a sensor when you sit down in the seat. The resistance changes, and now it knows somebody's in the seat. Newer cars actually can tell almost how much weight is sitting there, but some of the older models just say someone's sitting in there or they're not. So make sure you check your connections. Be careful with the airbags. If you're dealing with the sensors or things like this with the buckles, it's not such a big deal. But if you have issues with the actual airbag modules, be careful that you disconnect your battery. You don't want that thing to blow up in your face. If it's cold outside and you've been noticing in the morning that you've been having static, like touching the doorknob, and it's been shocking, that's probably not a good time to be working on your airbag system. You could touch a connector and it could just go off and blow the airbag in your face, so you don't want that. The airbag system is something you don't want to bypass it. I've heard of people saying, I couldn't get the right resistance on my seat sensor, so I just bought a resistor at Radio Shack and stuck it in there and said, yeah, there you go, now you're happy. That's not a wise idea on airbags, because this is life or death. If you get into an accident and it'll say, I'm not going to deploy the airbag because everything senses that I don't need to, because you stuck a resistor in there and tricked it. You could get hurt really bad. You don't want to fool around with airbag systems like that. There's lots of things that can break on your car, like your backup camera or a park light bulb is out. Things like that, you can let them go for a little bit. Airbags are not something you want to let it go or try to bypass it. Now, one last thing I want to talk about, we're going to move over to a different car. I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up. It's a little issue I've been having in the shop of people calling from out of state and bringing their cars. And it's not really me. I'm not upset with the customer. I'm not upset with anybody involved. It's just kind of a heads up to let you guys know. When you call any mechanic shop, especially out of state, and you're going to ship your car there, they need a lot of information over the phone. Let's head on over there and take a look. So this is a 2001 Chevrolet Camaro with a 3.8 V6. This customer actually lives in Chicago. He's had it to a couple different mechanics and he got tired of them. For whatever reason, he just decided, I'm just going to take this car to the Car Wizard and see if he can get it taken care of and get this fixed once and for all. And I applaud his efforts. I really wish I could take care of the issue. Supposedly it just has a check engine light on, an emissions code, P0440. It might be a vacuum leak or an emissions leak. But I'm not even going to get to go that far because there's a lot of information that wasn't divulged to me over the phone. Let's take a look. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is just the way it arrived to me with the air filter snout missing, which isn't that big of a deal. Somebody's been in here trying to mess with the airflow sensor or throttle body and different things. So I'm starting to think maybe this is a vacuum leak or a wiring issue or something. When I drove this car into the shop, it was smoking heavily and misfiring heavily. So I'm starting to think, okay, something else is going on. A PO440 is not going to cause all these issues. Something else is going on here. And it just like I do any other time with unknown variables, I start checking the basics. When I pulled the radiator cap off after pulling it in, the inside has a brown layer of goo in there. I noticed that the antifreeze was low, and there was a little bit of smoke coming out of here from running. So I go to check the coolant reservoir bottle. Look at that, guys. Bars leak. It's got some kind of stop leak or some kind of, there's little metal flakes. It's kind of like bars leak or Prestone, or I'm not sure what brand it is. It's like mud. Somebody is trying to stop a leak that's inside this vehicle. So it's smoking out of the tailpipe. We have all this stuff in the radiator, tons of stuff in the reservoir. Somebody's trying to stop a cracked block, a blown head gasket. I don't know what it is, but something drastically is wrong. And then I go to check the oil, the engine oil. Lots of metal flakes in it, and it's milky. So that tells me there's coolant getting into the oil. So when I say I drove it, I literally just drove it 200 feet from outside the shop into the bay here. And just with the way the engine's running, it won't even stay idling. And there's something drastically wrong with this engine. Is there a major internal failure that has happened? This guy has taken this all the way from Chicago to here. I really wish he would have told me this stuff over the phone. Because now he gets to take it back home. I'm not interested in working on this car. The cost to repair all this is going to exceed the value of the car greatly. Greatly.
Car Wizard, really, what do you think it would take?
I'd have to pull the heads off to discover is it a blown head gasket. Has the bearings inside the motor gotten water on them and scored the bearings? It could very likely just need a complete reman long block to take care of this issue. You're talking $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000. The car probably doesn't even cost that if it was running and driving perfectly. So this turned in from a PO440 emissions leak to like a bomb went off. And I hate this for this guy because obviously I don't think he caused this. But now he's going to have to drive all the way back out here to pick up his car and take it all the way back home. I'm not going to be interested in working on this. It's not going to be something that I want to take on. This is really not the type of stuff I do in this shop. He's going to need to have a friend or a buddy. Maybe they can put a salvage motor in it. Maybe they can do some other things. But for liability reasons, I'm not going to put my hands on this car as far as working on it. Anytime you take a car to a mechanic, especially if it's a long distance away, you need to tell the shop every single thing that is wrong with your car. Because at that point, they could say over the phone, okay, well, based on what I'm hearing, I'm probably not going to be interested in working on your car. And it saves the trip, it saves a lot of headache, and a lot of discouragement. It also gives the mechanic a chance to give you a ballpark of what it may cost to fix your car. But if you just tell them you have 5 huge things wrong with your car, but you only tell them the one thing, and then it shows up and it's like, whoa, what happened here? So keep that in mind. If you're calling a mechanic up, you need to tell them everything that is wrong with your car. It saves you a headache, and it saves the mechanic a headache. Like I said, I really hate this for this guy. I'd love to fix his car. I'd love to get it back on the road for him. It's not going to be financially feasible. It really isn't. So I'm glad you guys could follow along and on the Porsche issue, 986, 996 airbag light issue. Maybe that'll save you some time and some money. And on the Camaro, I only brought that up, guys, because this isn't the first time this has happened. It's probably about the 5th. And just trying to save you guys some headache. If you've got some issues, you want to call a mechanic in a distance, make sure you tell them everything that's wrong. Again, we'll put the Stable at 22 and Amazon affiliate page. We've also got many more cool tools for sale there. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. We got many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.